So I am here. Am I here? And hopefully I am on Ustream as well. And I am broadcasting now. So hello, everybody. I am so excited about having the opportunity to, of course, chat with you and do the show live from here in Cleveland. So I'm just always extremely blessed and happy to do this. And, just I'm here. So I have been here trying to get set up for the last half hour or so. Some of you saw me come online earlier. And so I'm still just, trying to make this happen and to use all the different forms of communication that I possibly can. You guys, I have had the most awesome experiences over the last few weeks. Um, I've told you and shared with you last week that I went to see a movie called Finding Joe. And then I turned around this past week and I watched, or no, I'm sorry, I didn't watch. I was supposed to go out of town. For many of you, you know, I was supposed to go to Mississippi, and I didn't make it to Mississippi. And instead, since I decided I wasn't going to Mississippi, I called a friend of mine who is in charge of what we call the Spirituality Conference Group here in Cleveland. They had a guy coming to town, Dr. Will Coleman, and I called and asked if I could get an interview with him. The interview is up on my channel at ustream.tv / I don't know if it's channel, then Sandra said it, or if it's TV / Sandra said it, one of those two, but I am on there with him doing the broadcast. Anyway, I was blessed to get that interview. Went over and I sat down and I talked to him. And Dr. Coleman is a biblical scholar as well as a Kabbalion scholar, and he has explored a number of different things. And during the interview, I found out that he was raised Pentecostal, became a Presbyterian minister, and was just like me in the sense I've told people in the past that I consider myself one of those metaphysical tramps who just loves going from just any type of metaphysics, any type of information. I have sat in classes, taken classes in Judaism and taking classes in Islam, and I just love the study of religion and how those things affect my life. And so as I talked to him, I noticed that he was the same type of person that I was. So that was like one of those coming home things. He's also studied Rosicrucianism and talks about how all those things work. And so I felt extremely blessed. And it was almost, no, I think it was better than the interview that I did with Rocco Errico, who is another biblical scholar. And when you translate a Bible, the Bible, out of or from its original language, whether it's Hebrew or if you translate it from the Greek or whatever, you get a totally different feel for what is being talked about and what is being shared. So I felt blessed in that sense that I had an opportunity to do that. And so one of the things that, as I talk about this and as I explore all these things, I think to myself that it's interesting why I fell in love with A Course in Miracles. You guys will see me. I'm sweating. Not only is it hot here in Cleveland, but it is you know just whatever. Is me too, rushing around. So I don't want to get off track though. One of the things that I love about A Course in Miracles is that Course in Miracles provides you, and I say this all the time, it provides us with a framework of understanding. So it's not just about um, the book. It's about how we deal with each other. So there's a line that was in the movie Finding Joe, and the line said something to the effect of that life is like a minus sign. So the minus sign is what we're doing here on earth, but then it's waiting for that vertical transformation, that awareness of heaven and earth together combined, that whole thing, to turn it into a plus. And so when we start to think about what we're doing, the Course in Miracles provides us with a framework on how to deal with one another. So I was amazed at some of those things that came out of his information that he shared. I used to always tell people that there is really three types of knowledge. The knowledge of something. So, I'll tell you, I used to be fascinated with pyramids. And back in high school, I remember having an opportunity to study pyramids. So I got a lot of information. At first, I just heard about them and thought, oh, they're one of the great wonders of the world. Knew nothing about it. I just had knowledge of a pyramid. Then in high school, I decided to use that as a science project. And in the science project, during the course of that, I learned so much more information about pyramids and how fascinating they are, not only the ones in Egypt, but also the ones in Mexico. And scientists, one of the reasons why they were one of the great wonders of the world was because they were measured 365 cubits on each side, and the stones were so amazingly huge. They couldn't understand how they moved the stones into such formation that you couldn't even put a piece of paper in between the two of them. So it was just a marvel at how they were able to do this and know so much about the cosmos, know so much about the universe, that they knew how long it took the planet to circle around the sun, things like that, which was just, to them back in that day when we thought that they still thought that the earth was flat. To be able to have that type of science and that kind of information in order to build those pyramids in that way, that's one of the reasons why it's one of the great wonders of the world. So I went from having knowledge of to really having a knowledge about and information of. But then I don't know if I shared with you before, I had an opportunity to go overseas when I was in college. And so I went to study in Italy. And because I went over with a group of people. And this group of people, we stayed in what was called a villa at the time. I never fit in with groups. I'm not a group person. I'm always like this renegade kind of, individual that I'd go off and do things on my own. Didn't like staying in the villa. So I decided I'd find me a roommate, which is what I did. I found some Italian guy in the square who spoke no English. I didn't speak any Italian at the time, and I decided to rent a room from him. Well, anyway, I don't want to get off track on that, but so I'm over there in Italy, and instead of going like everybody else does at spring break to Paris or someplace else like that, I decided that I was going to go to um, I decided that I was going to go to where instead? I decided I was going to go to Greece instead. And so I went down to Greece or over to Greece. And while I was in Greece, I was walking down the street and I saw a sign that said I could go over to Egypt. I mean, yeah, over to Egypt for little or no money. I'm here at my father's house and I'm doing the radio show, and I'm just so glad that you're there. And so you guys, I'm always excited about this stuff. So I decided I'd go over to Egypt, and the round trip to Egypt was maybe about 80 bucks. And in that, spending the 80 bucks, I'd probably have, after I finished this trip, $40 left. And so I decided, well, what the heck, let me go. And so that was what I did. I took a trip over to Egypt. So I went from having knowledge of to having knowledge about. And then this trip caused me to have what I would say is the experience of, the firsthand experience of the pyramids like I hadn't before. So I had that all working together. So when I tell you that there's basically three types of knowledge: knowledge of, knowledge about, and experiential stuff. So when you get to something, when you're a part of something, when you walk inside, when you touch it, when you're a part of it, it becomes this experiential thing that takes you to a whole nother level of knowing something. So when we talk about this whole idea about the Bible, when we talk about this whole idea about God, it becomes an experiential thing, experiential in nature. And so it's fascinating to me. You guys give me, this is crazy. So it becomes experiential in nature. They knew that the earth was round. Plus, imagine all you had was the sky to watch at night. And that's exactly what I said. You would learn a lot about the stars. So I'm wondering why people thought for so long that the earth was flat. So it became this thing that, this experiential thing that I had, which is the same as true when we start to talk about this thing about God. You guys, it is so interesting because some people, so many people, think that the experience of God is all about what we read in a book or what we see in certain places, when really, in all reality, the experience of God is something that is experienced as opposed to something that you learn about. And so if it's experienced, then all the stuff that we read, all this stuff that we're into, if we don't at some point understand that it's about making the internal connection. So we're so busy thinking that it's out there, up there somewhere, that we don't really see and recognize that the real journey to God that we're taking is an internal one. What the Course wonderfully illustrates is that, it's taking us out of this realm of thinking that it's always about other people. And what it does is systematically breaks down our relationships with other people to show us that the real thing is to get to the point where we recognize that the other people that are there to be our saviors. They're there to save us from the sense that making it seem like it's about them, to realizing that it is all about us. Uh, can you imagine? So it takes it and it takes you on a whole nother journey, a journey from looking outward. So I might get into the perception that, that my spiritual journey is about, learning how to quote the Course, or learning how to quote the Bible, or doing good deeds, or what, you know? So I get caught up. Okay, so we get caught up in our anger, we get caught up in the things that we think that we do wrong. It's interesting. I had a friend of mine who I just adored, and she just adored me. It was interesting because at some point it was so weird, because every time I was around her, it seemed as though there was this competition that was going on. And so I go out someplace and we walk in, and all of a sudden she, if somebody looks at me or somebody talks to me, she jumps in the way and she's like, "Hey, look at me, I'm talking now," and don't pay any attention to her. And it was just really comical, and it really didn't bother me at first because I was really amused by it. But then at some point along the way, it started to get irritating. And I made it seem like it was all about her rather than being all about me. That's one of the neat things that our egos play on us. It's like this projection mechanism so that if I make her the guilty one, I don't really have to look at my drama. But if the Course tells me I'm never really mad for the reasons I think I am, I'm not upset for the reasons I think I am, then really what it's doing is it's telling you, yeah, there's other folks out here. But those other folks are really just pushing you to turn around and look back within you. So if I'm making her the guilty one, if I'm making her the problem, if I'm making her the issue, then I can't do the internal work that is necessary to see that the real culprit, the real person that I need to work on is really just me. All these other people out here are really just my saviors showing up to show me and say to me, hey, Sandra, it's not us, it's not me, it's not this, it's that. It's really that turning within that we need to do. So the Course gives us a framework in which to discover that the real process isn't about what other people are doing and saying and all these other actions. The real work that we need to do is within us. So, it's funny because we're always pointing out the people that push our buttons. This person pushed my button, that person pushed my button. Oh, woe is me in this occasion. So I can tell you about, oh my goodness. If ever there was somebody that was put on this earth to push my buttons, it would be him. Or I could tell you about, who. I could tell you about uh, people that I've dated in the past or situations that I've been in. And I'm always looking at them and thinking to myself, like, why are you here? But if I recognize that the real thing, the real culprit, the real person that needs to do the real growth and the real learning is me, then turn and I look within and say, okay, what is it that I need to learn? So it's funny. A friend of mine's called me today and really excited about some of the things that I was going through as far as just having this big transformation ever since the conference. It's like all these wonderful, fabulous things have been happening with me and to me and for me. And so he calls me up and he starts to tell me about um, one of his friends, and one of his friends had an idea that was stolen from him. And I had to chuckle because as he said it, I started thinking, you know, Joseph Campbell and The Power of Myth and The Hero of a Thousand Faces and the work with symbolism and mythology has has opened up a whole new framework that's really ancient. The Course in Miracles in the beginning of the book says this is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. So if it's a required course and the course has just been written, what happened to all the folks before the course that didn't get to take the course? Well, here's the thing. Life, I always say this, life comes with its own individual lessons for our own growth and our own good. So if it comes with all these little lessons for us to learn, then everything is about our growth, everything that happens to us. So Joseph Campbell goes through and he talks about different things that we go through so that we can grow through them. And there is this thing, this common motif that happens throughout mythology, us dealing with our dragons, whatever they may be. And when you think about stories, there's always this hero's journey that they need to go on. And I said this last week. There's this hero's journey that they need to go on, and it's usually to get something or make something happen. So now, if you think about it, at some point in your life, you're going to encounter a dragon. And it may be all the time. It may be a weekly occurrence for you because you haven't quite gotten it. It may be something that that whatever it is, it may be something that occurs to you that you need to overcome. So what is it that's your dragon? Well, at some point, my girlfriend was my dragon. At some point, my dad is my dragon. At some point, these things come up for me to show me something about myself. The Course is simply telling us all the time to turn around and look within. And if you look within, then you'll really see what this whole thing is all about. I mean, this whole lesson is not about what somebody else did to you, but rather what you've done to yourself. And so in the stories that Will Coleman told, he talked about and translated or read to us some passages out of the Bible that were in Greek. And it's amazing how the words that we use, we don't even recognize where some of these words come from. But ego was always a word that meant self. And so we get caught up and we're busy in this battle against these ideas about ourselves and trying to, I'm amazed. A friend of mine's called me up and she was saying to me, well, I had to check in to see if it was my ego, if my ego wanted something. And I was thinking, so what if it was? Sometimes our ego is telling us not to do certain things, right? Nobody wants to hear Sandra talk. That would be my ego. My ego was telling me nobody wants to hear what you have to say. Nobody wants to hear, you go on and on about, your past, or nobody wants to hear how you interpret the Course. Nobody wants to hear that. That's what my ego would tell me. And so the other side of me, the pride side of me, would then turn around and say, well, yeah, they do. So at some point, depending upon where we are in our growth and development, our ego will either keep us from doing something or promote us to do something. So why get caught up in trying to identify what it is if it is pointing towards your highest and your best? If it is pointing towards your joy, love, happiness, and peace, why not do it regardless of what's said? I can tell you, I have thought my ego was giving me wrong information so many times. My ego at one point had told me not to do something that I very well wanted to do. And and what? Because I was so busy identifying it as something that was negative, as something that I wanted to fight up against. I didn't do the very thing that I should have done. And so sometimes we get caught up in labeling things as good or bad, negative, and talking about how it made us do that. I used to listen to, I don't know if you used to listen to, but I used to listen to Flip Wilson. And Flip Wilson had this thing about saying, the devil made me do that, and it was always this like laughter kind of thing because we're busy talking about this idea that the devil could make you do something that you're not meant to do. Well, just imagine if all the stuff that you do still carries with you the same signature of who you are, right? I mean, so whether or not you think that the devil is making you do it or God is making you do it, what you bring to it is this self that you are. And ask yourself in those instances, what is my intent here? So is it, that the Course calls it grandiosity? Is it because you think you're grandiose? Or is it because you think that the world needs to hear what you have to say? Or that this is what you are supposed to bring to the table? And if it's not hurting somebody, then why do we struggle against it so bad? You know, I, I get a little confused about all that. I get confused because we're so busy struggling about things that seem like they shouldn't be a struggle at all. We struggle against things that are really for our highest and best, but show up as our dragon. It shows up as the dragon. So when my friend calls me up and he's talking about somebody stole his idea, I'm sitting there and I'm saying, you know what? We don't own ideas. Ideas are out there in the cosmos and they're floating. And if you get it, if you capture that idea and you draw it down and you make it happen, then yes, it's yours. But God, when the Holy Spirit puts ideas out there in the universe, the first order of business is to make it happen. Ownership of it is not really what that's all about. Our thing that we need to own it is what is that? Okay, so it's if it's for the good, if it's for the good of all, somebody needs to bring it to fruition. God will not be denied. That project will not be denied. So if you don't make it happen, somebody else will, because you don't own ideas. We don't own these things. They're out there and they have to come into fruition. So the idea that somebody stole it was not the fact, really, in fact, that somebody stole it. It was that he was dragging his feet and didn't do what he needed to do. And I know whenever I come up with something, if I come up with something really good, if I come up with a really good invention or I think in my head, I'm going to make something, I know that it's about to happen if I don't make it happen. It's not going to just depend on me. Like if it, if it's going to be, it's up to me, and or otherwise it doesn't happen. I mean, come on, isn't God more powerful than that? Isn't this thing that we participate in called God more powerful than that? Than just to give this one idea to one person only, and by chance have it not happen because only one person had it and one person didn't make it happen. So as I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about it, and then he starts to tell me about, well, he didn't make it happen because this thing happened or that thing happened. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking like, but that's your dragon. That is the obstacle that you needed to overcome in order to make that happen. And so a lot of times we're backing up and we're judging all of these instances when really it's all about us figuring out how to be who we are, how to be more God, how to bring more love to whatever situation. And so if we start to stop, or if we stop trying to make it about what they did to me, what somebody else did, and really see what's there for me, then I get my lesson. I get the growth. I get to walk through this journey and understand what it's all about. Oh, I love that. So the course takes it out of this idea that it's about something else, that it's about somebody else. And it has you to own that it is your lesson to learn. It is your gift. All these folks out here are put here just basically as, I'll say, as your saviors, but they're put here so that you understand you more fully. So when I get activated by somebody else's drama, whether it's that girlfriend or another girlfriend, whenever I get activated by somebody else's drama, the real lesson in it is for me to step back and to see what I'm thinking, to see where I'm giving in to my fear thoughts rather than my faith thoughts. Now, I don't want to brush over this because for some reason I'm thinking that this is a really important point for many of us. Marianne Williamson, in her book, A Return to Love, she said to us that nobody needs to take your candy from you. We're so busy throwing it away that we don't give people a chance to come over and steal our candy. We're giving it up. She said, "Your playing small doesn't serve the world." And went on to talk about on so many levels about what we're giving to the world. Is that something that is worthy? You know, if we are the perfect child of God, am I giving to the world a worthy gift, a gift worthy of, whether if it's to you or to me, am I giving a gift that is worthy of the perfect child of God? So if I am constantly saying, "Oh, is this my ego talking?" Imagine if everything I'm judging is my ego. So what does that mean? Does that mean that now I need to downplay? Now, does that mean that I need to not be my best? Does that mean now that I shouldn't shine? Does that mean that I should play dumb? Does that mean I should dumb down my conversation? I mean, what does that mean? Really, I mean, what does it mean when we get caught up and we identify things and think, "Oh, that's my ego talking," or "That's my ego doing so." What does that really mean? So the way that I try to do, or what I try to make sure I'm doing is that I try to keep myself in alignment so that I'm not thinking that I'm better than, because our pride, our judgments, is what quickly gets us, it quickly alienates us rather than joining us together. So if I'm checking to make sure that I'm filled with love, light, and I have the best interests of those at hand, if I'm giving rather than trying to take away, if I'm uplifting rather than trying to put down. I mean, when I'm coming from a place of judgment, when I'm coming from a place of superiority, those places, yeah, that's getting caught up in the grandiosity that the Course talks about. But if I'm really coming from a space of love and trying to do what's best, if I'm trying to give a gift that I think is worthy of my brother, if I'm doing those things, then how can that be ego? How can that be about something other than promoting love, promoting God, promoting spirituality, promoting what's good? I mean, how can it be about anything else other than that? So at a certain point, I have to start thinking about, as the Course is telling me, if the Course is telling me that I'm never upset for the reasons that I think I am, then I need to start looking at it like, really, why am I upset? Was I really upset because I thought my girlfriend was doing something so terrible to me? Is that why I was so upset? Or is it, what was it? I mean, so in every instance, I'm checking with myself to see what is it that's really the issue here? What is my problem here? And so if I'm doing that, then I'll stay on course. It's funny. Today we have a lot of religions that point us outward, that want us to see God as being something out there, over there, up there, something that is judging us and looking down on us as if something is bad. But really, all of this is about this inward flow that we go through, that inward look. And as we start to look inward and start to understand that really this whole journey is not about all those folks out there that we perceive as doing something wrong, but really about us, then we get to change around how we see things. So if I'm looking at it and I'm thinking that that is my dragon, you may be my dragon, a certain thing may be my dragon trying to prevent me from getting inside of the castle, trying to prevent me from having what I think I deserve, having what I desire. If I'm seeing a dragon out there, what is that dragon there for? I love that somebody said, and I'm not even sure who said, we can fight the dragons or we can learn how to love the dragon. We can look at the dragon and we can say, wow, this is my dragon and I'm going to love it. So if I'm saying to you that my wonderful father, has this tendency to activate all those points in me. If my father is the one that, that causes me stress and de-stress, whatever, if I'm identifying that as my dragon, I might have shared before with you that my real intent is not to conquer my dad, but rather to figure out a way to look at that situation for the highest and best and understand the love, because a lot of times what we perceive to be confrontation, conflict, what we perceive to be somebody out to get us or do us wrong, or to hurt us or harm us, is really their way of loving us, right? So what I needed to do was to be able to redefine and see it differently. So every time I hear my dad say to me, and he still does, you know, this thing about, oh, Sandra, you need to get married. Sandra, I want, you need to do this or you need to do that. What I hear now is not that I'm doing something wrong. What I hear him saying is, that part of for me is silenced, wah, wah, wah. And what I hear him saying now is I really care about you. I really love you. I really want somebody to watch out for you. I don't want to leave this planet without somebody watching over you. Instead of me getting upset now, what I hear is that, and I hear the love in it. So what I had to do was to ask the Holy Spirit to let me see it differently. Ask the Holy Spirit to correct what I'm hearing, correct my vision, correct my thinking about things. And through that, I learned that the real dragon that I had was not him, but really my judgments that I had about me, my judgments that I had about my own choices. Now, you guys may not know this, but when I was younger, when I was I'll say in junior high school, Sandra had decided that Sandra wasn't ever getting married. And it wasn't until, and I had stuck by that. I wasn't getting married. I wasn't having any children. And, and that was like my declaration. I was serious about it. I didn't ever change my mind about that until I turned 40. And I know some of you didn't know I was 40, but, and I'm older than 40 now. But until I turned 40, I hadn't changed my mind about it. And so at 40, this is what I thought at 40. At 40, I thought, oh, I've done this single thing. I've done it well. I've dated some awesome guys. I've done the traveling. I've done all this. I've done all that. Maybe what I need now is an intense workshop that I can grow in. Maybe I need to join with somebody for my highest good so that I could work through issues, so that I could, because I had that other thing down pat. I tell you, it's like a system, woo. And that may be my ego telling you that. I don't know. But it's my truth. And my truth is there, and hopefully somebody will take that and do something with it, whatever. But if what we're doing is growing, if what we're doing is taking away all that outside stuff for us to turn inwardly and see God more clearly, then clearly what we need to do is stop making it about other people and really see how it's really all about us. I am my dragon. I am my own jailer and that thing. Now, another thing that I wanted to talk about, and I've probably got about 15 minutes left. Another thing I wanted to talk about was something that was triggered for me the other day. I I have these wonderful, vivid dreams. I love my dreams. I keep a pad and a paper, or pad is the paper, and the pen in the bed. And a lot of times I'll wake up in the middle of the night and make notes about what I've dreamt about, or, something that's come to me while I was asleep. And, um, and so the other night was no different. I woke up and I wrote down some stuff. And Dr. Coleman, and you guys, if you get a chance, if you're at all interested in that kind of stuff, he has a website. He's on Facebook, willcolemanphd.com. And on my Ustream, there is a video. I think on my Facebook page too, there's a video of that workshop that I did with him. He's got so much information on his website, and he offers free classes too. If you're at all interested in that, please do so. But he talked about us and our dreams. And one of the things that Eric Fromm, one of the philosophers that I love to read, he said that we have lost this ability, this thirst to find puzzlement in our lives, to 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 see that we have puzzles, and to basically unlock or to figure out the puzzles, to go through what it takes to put a puzzle together, to figure out and see the bigger picture. And sometimes our dreams are just like that. They're these little puzzles that we need to dissect and put or put together, so that we understand what's going on within ourselves, because your dreams are all about you. Your dreams are for you. They are informing you of something. So I had this dream. And once I had the dream, I went back and I thought to myself about it, what I saw in my dream. And it reminded me of this idea about puppets and puppeteers. And who would have thought that? I keep all these books in my bathroom too. I know, that's a Seinfeld episode. I keep all these books in my bathroom. And John Mundy had also done a piece about, I want to say, about puppets and puppeteers. And it caused me to go back to something else I had read. And it was about the image of this thing that we call the devil. And the devil in this particular picture that came up for me was pictured as standing there with this little flute. He's the sart or whatever it is, half man, half goat guy. And he's got a flute, and he's got these people who are on a string, and they're dancing about. And as the people are dancing about, what strikes you is that they're on a string, their arms and their legs are totally free, and the string is around their neck. It seems as though at any instance they have the ability to just, untie the string and walk away, or to not be, um, have their strings pulled by this devil. But as I thought about that, I thought to myself, like, okay, so what's the message in this for me, for us, for my ideas about things? And I thought to myself, we all have this tendency to love and to thirst for joy, this experience of being happy and free, this life where we're constantly involved in a dance. And all of that stuff is good and very good. I'm not trying to make it seem as though it's not. But there is a balance at which we must strike, a balance within ourselves that says that it's wonderful to get caught up, to eat, drink, make merry, to have this thirst for what is wonderful. But now, are you controlling your strings, or is somebody else controlling them? Do you have the perception that the person that is pulling your strings, your puppet master, is outside of you? Or are you pulling your own strings? And that's what we need to be conscious of. That's what the Course is trying to tell us. That we give meaning to all this stuff out here that we see. That what we think about it, we think about it. We have the ability to control our thinking. We have the ability. An untrained mind can accomplish nothing. Your belief in that is not necessary, but your willingness is. And so as you start to willingly look at what you're doing, who's pulling your strings, who is it that is your puppet master, why it is you're doing what you're doing, why it is you see what you see, all of those things, when you start to ask yourself those questions, then you'll really be engaged in this process of knowing that you are not only the puppet, but the puppet master. So this idea that we have about our egos, the idea that we have about God being outside of us, all of our ideas, all of it is so that we can see who we are better, how we can love better, how we can better be who we are. All of it is about the inward journey. It's about us making that transmutation, that transformation from this person who thought that our puppet master was somebody else, somewhere else, my girlfriend making me dance, your spouse making you dance, your children making you dance, somebody else pulling your string. Yeah, when you stop thinking that it's somebody else and really yourself, then you'll get a real clue about what it is. Let me see, what is that, Lynn? There was a tarot card like that. The noose is loose. They imprison themselves. And you know what? It is so true. Because, if we look at it like that we imprison ourselves, we also imprison ourselves with the thinking, the thoughts about what somebody else is going to think about what we do. I mean, understand it like, so a lot of us are shackled in our own minds because we're so worried about what other people think, what somebody else is going to say. All of these thoughts, we get caught up in, we allow them to manipulate us and control us when really there is nobody else out there. I mean, it is us. You know that thing, I love that quote where it says, I've met the enemy and the enemy is us. It's me. It's me. And so we're imprisoned. We get ourselves trapped up in this thing. And even beyond that, it's not just Sandra. Sometimes it is society as a whole. We get caught up in our thinking, our puritanical thinking. I loved at the conference where this lady said, here I was thinking that God was a serious matter. And I'm coming in here and I'm thinking that I've got to be all serious and stoic, and you guys are having fun. Who would have thought that? And it was like the room just erupted in laughter, because the moment you start, we get caught up in these ideas that it's got to be a particular way. And the real lesson, the real getting it is to live out our truth, to love who we are. And in loving who we are, love God, love one another. And then that way we get released from all this stuff. I got stuff here. Let me look. So I got a thumbs up. Say and do what you will. Who minds? Who minds don't matter. Who matters don't mind. Dr. Seuss. Yes, so true. Okay, I want to go to the grocery store. My daughter has to take a shower, do her hair, and put on makeup, and it drives me nuts. Put on a hat and some sunglasses. Nothing I see means anything. It means nothing because we give it meaning. And even this, even all the stuff that we read, all of it, nothing means anything. And so if we get to a place of peace, if we get to a place of total acceptance, if we just get to a place where we stop giving all this stuff the power over us and rather, just be, just love, just experience, if we stop with all the craziness. I mean, we shackle ourselves like no other. We allow other people, we believe that other people have power over us. And the real lesson is that there's nobody else out there. That God loves you, that you remain as God created you. Nothing you've ever done or ever will do will diminish your worth. Oh, I just think it's so neat when we really get that clue. Now, I know that there was something else I wanted to share with you before my time is up. Um, and I have no idea what it was. I guess I wasn't meant to share it with you. Um, so, so it's all good. But I think at some point we have to let go of the strings, and understand that we have the power to untie ourselves. Understand that this experience is not about what other people do, but rather about what we do and how we see ourselves. Let me look. Giving meaning to anything delays me from seeing nothing has power over me. It really does. It really does delay us in seeing that nothing has power over me. You know, you guys, and this is what I love about the Course so much. The Course gives us all these wonderful, wonderful lessons that we are learning, whether we're in the actual Course in Miracles or we're in the Course of Life. We are learning, and we are here to understand who we are and to see, and that's what I tell my friend. At a certain point in our lives, we get to see the patterns, these patterns that show up to show us who we are, these patterns that give us an opportunity to choose again, to ask, and whether or not it is, for him, he's not into the Course in Miracles. So whether or not it's the Holy Spirit he's talking to or somebody else, I told him, I said, ask to see it differently. Just say, utter the words. Your belief is not necessary, but the moment you ask, the moment you surrender your idea that you know, that's the moment you'll be gifted with another way of seeing things. I was gifted with another way of relating to everybody and everything. And everything in this universe operates on a certain pattern. And whatever that pattern is, it is there for your growth and for your good. There is nothing, God is not out to get you, not um, trying to trick you or anything like that. It is really about you getting it. So whether your path is through Pentecostal or the Catholicism or Judaism or whatever it is your path, at some point you'll realize that it's not about what's outside of us. And I'm saying it's what's in us. I know this idea about us being a body or this idea of a body is not real. So even when I'm talking about this going inside of me, I'm saying it's not inside of my body. It's inside of my mind, inside of my consciousness, inside of my awareness. That's why messages come to me through my dreams, because it is about the mind. It is about how I think about things. So if I turn inward and I look inward, then I learn the lessons that I'm supposed to learn. Nothing out there has power to harm you or to take you down or damage you. So the moment, so if I'm sitting here, it's funny because this whole thing is all about us trying to figure out, how to love our dragons. you know, the perception that we have a dragon, and then once I figure out that it's not really my dragon, that image of the lion and the lamb laying down together, and I know that seems like a foreign idea because a lion is a natural predator of the lamb. But at a certain point, when we give up this idea that we can be harmed, that I am my body, if I give up this idea that I am this and recognize that I'm so much more, that the totality of my being is not about this physicality that is Sandra, but rather the spiritual self that is Sandra. If I get that, if I really embrace that, then the lion and the lamb are not in competition with one another. They do lay down together. They are there. And then we understand that there is a process in life, a process in our life. I a couple of weeks ago, and I know my time is almost up, and Barrett is there. I see him waiting in the wings. Hi, Barrett. But a couple of weeks ago, a bird landed in my driveway, or there was a bird that was there. And this bird was sitting there defiantly. And as I walked closer to it, I don't know if I told you about this, but as I walked closer to the bird didn't fly away. It was just there. And I'm looking at this bird and I'm thinking, like, okay, something's wrong. And the bird was sick. Now, even a bird has sense enough to know that when it's sick, it grounds itself, and the natural process means that a natural predator will come along and take it out. If, of course, somebody named Sandra doesn't come along and put it in a shoebox and then try to think that she can nurse it back to health. Eventually, the bird died anyway. I just kind of like prolonged the process. And for what? Because I was thinking that I was saving the bird's life. If you try to save your life, you'll surely lose it, because what, you think that's your life anyway? Isn't that something like the Bible said anyway? Oh, I love this stuff. Okay, so you guys, I know my time is up. I've talked nonstop. Barrett is there, and I've got to go. Lynn, Dove, Barrett, all of you guys, thank you for sharing with me. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I love you. I will see you again next Tuesday. If I don't see you beforehand, I'm redoing my website, so I will have more information about when I'll be speaking again or what venues or whatever. But for now, I've got to give up the mic. Oh, thank you. I love you guys. And love you too, Dove. And I'm letting go of the mic. See ya. And I'm also letting go of you too. So uh, here we go. Let me go. See ya. All right. So I don't want to close program. Where is my pal?